Hello, my name is Keith Thompson. I'm president of Asheville Civitan Club this year. I'd like to invite each and every one of you to join us for the upcoming television series, Spirit of Civitan TV. It's going to be on URTV, and we're going to be covering some of the important issues affecting our community. We're going to be meeting some of the civic leaders who are making a difference every day in the lives of our community, and making things better for our children and grandchildren, making this a better place in which to live. So we hope you will be able to join us and watch our series as it comes forward. Thank you.
Van Duncan, a member, and someone whom we know quite well, is from Spruce Pine, nearby Mitchell County, and went to Western Carolina University, BS degree in criminal justice. I guess what I wanted to say is that, of course, we're all very proud of Van and the job that he's done, and I don't know, I don't think in all the places I've lived around this country, I don't think I recall having to elect a sheriff. The sheriff was always one that was appointed. I never knew by whom, whether it was, the county. It wasn't any of my business. I didn't spend a lot of time in the sheriff's office, so I really didn't know. And of course, I come here and find that you elect a sheriff of all the strange things to do. And of course, as we can tell, one of the problems I think it creates is, if you appoint a sheriff, you have a professional. You have someone who has all the experience and so on. If you elect somebody, you get a professional politician, So I think we've got the best of both worlds here. Van has turned out to have done an excellent job. So I'd like to welcome Van Duncan. Thank you.
It's good to be with you folks here this afternoon. I'm pretty loud. I'm going to try to adjust this microphone. It comes from my years of teaching or hollering at children, one of the two. I'm not sure which. And I do not take offense to being referred to as a politician. People used to say that, and I'd kind of look at them like they had said something about my mom, and I've got really very well used to it now, and I'm okay with that. And because of some of the good work of our elected officials, it is truly something that can be embraced. And with that being said, I want to thank your Civitan Club, which I am a member of, as well as Rotary, as well as the League of Women Voters, as well as Leadership Asheville, all the folks out there that help vet candidates. Because the really important part when you elect a public official, a sheriff, a district attorney, a county commissioner, a city council person, is that you have good information and have the opportunity to put that person on the spot and make them Q&A with you about what they're going to do and about what they're really about. Because as we have seen, it's a truly important decision. And you folks should be applauded for the job that you do in vetting those candidates as well as our other civic organizations, because it is extremely important. When I came and asked to be your sheriff a little over 2 years ago, and it's actually a little further back than that when I started the political process to get here, I promised you that I would be accountable, and I also promised if you were here in the session where I came and met with you before the election that I would bring you a year-end report. One of the things that we promised that we would do to be accountable is put those measurements up there of the things accomplished and results attained. And what I did is, I say the whole department did it. One of the things that made that very possible for us, and Lieutenant Sarles is a very important part of that, is our technology at the Sheriff's Office. We went from running at about 30% at our computer system, at our OSSI records management system in the jail and both in the enforcement side of the house, and we've turned that on now to where it was well over 100%. And I say well over 100% because they've actually had to go back and do some enhancements to give us some of the things that we need. One of the things that we put on there immediately was the evidence and property, which you guys were familiar with that issue when we went into office. All those things now are logged, barcoded, and documented in our RMS system, which makes us much more accountable, and the county auditors can come in and take a look and know if we're getting out of kilter with our evidence tracking and what we're doing. So there's a lot of things that IT has made very readily available for us, and one of those is the ability to do this year-end report. for us to gather our statistics. So everything that I'm bringing to you today has come off the RMS system and is in no way can be messed with other than by everybody there that enters it basically is just a calculator. It's a tally sheet at the end to see what we've done. So this is the year-end report that I brought to the county commissioners. And I started out talking with the table of contents just to show you real quickly what's included in our year-end report. There's a message in there from me, some Buncombe County facts at a glance. One thing that I didn't know till we compiled this report, out of a 652 square mile county, you guys want to guess how much that your sheriff's office is responsible for as far as delivering law enforcement services? 90%. Only 9.9% is within a municipality inside of Buncombe County. So we put some of those facts out there at a glance, sheriff's office at a glance. We talked about our Sheriff's Advisory Committee, which is an oversight committee for us. It reviews personnel actions. The Office of Professional Standards, which reviews the actions of our officers. All complaints that come into the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office are investigated by Office of Professional Standards investigator, or if it's a lesser complaint, then by one of the supervisors in that division. And we hold our folks accountable. It's one of our guiding principles. There's some information in there on canines, criminal investigation, property and evidence, detention, communications, our chaplains division, animal control, school resource, crime prevention, our special teams, our sheriff's response team, and also our storm team. That's our institutional security team within inside the detention center. And also some ways that we've given back to the community as a sheriff's office above and beyond what's described in the job description. But instead of rolling that out there, all of it, which would have been a longer presentation than our commissioners wanted to sit through, we have that available online, www.buncombecounty.org. Go to the sheriff's office. You can pull and download this whole report, or you can stop by the sheriff's office, and we keep about 50 to 75 of these printed out to give out hard copies for folks that do not have access to the computer. But one of the things that I wanted to do with the commissioners, as I do today, is I want to hit some of the high points with you folks from our year-end report. As you can see, we made more arrests in 2007. You can look at that either as a positive or a negative thing. It definitely shows that we were quite a bit busier. In 2006, which I took office December the 4th, we, by the end of that calendar year, had made 8,938 arrests. In 2007, we were up by 610 arrests to 9,548. We actually surpassed the Asheville Police Department in the number of arrests made. Total calls for service in 2007, we went over the 50,000 mark, 51,625 calls for service that we responded officers to, and it was over an 8,000 increase in calls for service from the previous year. Average response times for emergency calls, and when we basically put those things into categories, when we measure this benchmark, we're looking at calls, the easiest way to explain it, that are potentially life-threatening. I heard one come into work today. I heard one of my officers divert from a breaking and entering larceny report to go to a violent domestic that was going on where a woman had locked herself inside the bathroom and was awaiting our arrival. Her husband was outside and it was getting a little bit out of hand. So that would be classified as an emergency, what we refer to as a P or P1 call. Those are the average response times for emergency calls in 2007 went to 10 minutes, 10.75. The average response time for emergency calls in 2006 for that same bracket of calls was 11 minutes. So to take that down by a minute with no further resources, I felt was a really good benchmark for our patrol division. We concentrated on this. I felt like we needed to be able to tell the people of Buncombe County, even in a 652 square mile county, when they call with a life-threatening call, that we could be there on average in 10 minutes. The patrol division, and we did this last year with an overall increase of an overall 22% decrease in response times, but we're running about an 8% increase every month. It's showing that we're going up in the number of calls about 8% every month. Probably some of the best news that I have to bring you today, if you'll remember, back in, and I think it was January, I went before the county commissioners and asked for 10 new positions. And they very graciously allotted us those positions. We hadn't increased patrol directly since 1986, even with the growth in population and the growth in calls. And they allotted us 10 new, 8 of those went directly to the road as deputy sheriffs out responding to calls. We looked and we put those positions in what we call a power squad, which are out there during the high volume calls for service time. So we basically put the grease to the wheel where it was most needed. And with those 8 positions, which only really equate to an extra 4 people out there, if nobody's on sick time or whatnot, 4 extra people out there on patrol answering calls during that high call volume time. In 2008, what we've seen for the first 4 months is our average of calls are up 7.4%, which was 1,296 more calls than the same period of time last year, those same 4 months last year. But with those additional resources that we have, our response times for P and P1 calls are now below 10 minutes. They're at 9.16. And I just checked those with our computer system. It allows us to pull them monthly, and they're at 9.22 right now, which we're about to approach the middle of the summer, which is our busiest time for calls for service. So that's going very well. Criminal investigations, tremendously proud of the effort that they've put in and some of the differences they've made. Our overall case clearance rate, which means successfully cleared cases, or we refer to it exceptionally cleared. Now, it's not correct to say that all those were cleared by arrest. Exceptionally cleared goes to the cases to where when you go to investigate, you find out that there was no crime. The folks, the complainants, decide they do not want to prosecute. It may turn out to be somebody that they do not want to follow through with prosecution. The defendant could make restitution to the complainant. A number of things could happen. They could be charged on other charges and be locked up in jail, and we can't get into question and do, but basically they have been arrested and held accountable for something else. All those things go into the exceptionally cleared file. Right now in Buncombe County, we're at 48% on exceptionally cleared cases of all the cases that the detectives carry. The state average is 24%. When we took office in 2006, we were at 18% exceptionally cleared. So our sheriff's office has gone from 18% to 48%, and that went with a lot of hard work from CID. The Buncombe County Anti-Crime Task Force, in 2007, they seized right at $1.5 million in property and narcotics. And I'm very pleased to report to you today, through the hard works and efforts of the folks at the task force, the city police department is joining us back again. What used to be the old MEG is now the Buncombe County Anti-Crime Task Force, and their detectives are coming over so we can work jointly on one of the biggest challenges I feel like we have in Buncombe County, which is the challenge from the drug trade. Our best team, that's our breaking and entering suppression team. In the first 40 days of us starting them out, they recovered $178,000 in stolen property and served 70 warrants and closed 43 arrests. Now, this was a team of folks that we took from our field investigators, and we took 2 out of major case. We took a good look at what we were doing and the changes we had made since we came into office, and one of the things that we saw that we could do better was the breaking and enterings, the property crime breaking and entering. So we developed this team to put them directly to that problem. And I can tell you, for the first time in my career in Buncombe County, we have made a reduction in the number of breaking and enterings coming into the sheriff's office. That during the first 2 months, it was almost 50%. As we move on, and I give 2008's report for the calendar year that we're in now, at the end of this year, I'm looking very forward to seeing what the fruits of their hard work produces from the breaking and entering suppression team. They named themselves Best, which I thought was pretty haughty of them, but they've kind of lived up to it. So I'm very proud of their efforts and what they've done. Civil process, just to show you some of the sheer volumes of papers. Every civil paper that comes out of the court comes to our civil process division. They received 25,179 civil papers this year and served 18,122, which is a little over 70%. I know that's not great on a school test, Keith, but when you look at that volume of served papers and the resources we have, they did a pretty good job. Criminal arrest warrants served 12,513. Our detention center, and you guys may have some questions. One of the things that I told John to begin with is I will take any of your questions and answer anything that you want to ask me when I'm up here. If I don't know, I'll simply tell you I don't know, but don't feel that you can't ask. In my opinion, most anything, if it's relevant, is appropriate. So I'll ask any questions that you have, or answer any questions that you have that I know the answer. Our detention center, we're getting ready to open the new phase on the detention center, which is a 248-bed facility that will increase our ability to hold inmates. As you can see, that number continues to grow and go up. Our daily average population in 2006 was 460. The average daily population in 2007 is 474. And it would take a long time to explain this. It seems like we can't hold the people that we need to hold in jail. They're able to make bond and do. And then a lot of the folks that we get in our detention center are the folks who have a mental illness or an addictions problem, who we really aren't doing anything good by holding on. They're in there on very minor charges, and we have a hard time getting them out. And in many cases, they take and hold the bed space that we need for other folks. So we continually look at flushing the system and being able to put those folks who have an addictions problem or have a mental illness into a facility or into a program where they can get help instead of just being incarcerated, which really doesn't do anything for the problem. It just costs the taxpayer money to house them. When we open this new facility, I can tell you that the current jail, the old jail, is rated for about 350 people. So you can tell that we've been running overpopulated for quite a while, which causes its own set of problems. So we're looking at getting that open. The number of people that came through the detention center, and here's where you can tell that we've done a little better job in getting some of those folks out into other areas where they can be treated. And in 2006, excuse me, we had 13,725 come through the detention center, and in 2007 that number went up to 16,382. So you can see just by the sheer numbers the increase in volume of people moving through the detention center. Communications, this is a figure that astounded me. This is how many times the telephone rings. We can track that with our computer system down there. In 2007, they answered 325,477 calls. In 2008, communications is averaging in excess right now of 1,000 calls a day on the telephone. We're moving into a joint communications center that will house us, EOC, and the Asheville Police Department. I think that was a very good move and a thing that needed to be done because of some of the transfer of 911. It was going from one center to another. Sometimes things were lost in the transfer of the call, and it definitely was taking more time. We feel like we'll be more congruent and more effective, and hopefully the end result will be a savings in taxpayer money when we go into the new communications center. And that's scheduled to open, I believe, July 28th? June 29th. Excuse me, June 29th. It is this month. I have a hard time keeping up with the months here lately. They're moving awfully fast. Okay, and that is the end of the slideshow from the highlights of the year-end report. If you folks would like a complete copy on everything that we're doing, it is available online at the Buncombe County website, or it is available by hard copy at the sheriff's office.
What about the gang threat, or is that largely in the city police department?
Well, we're seeing some gang issues in Buncombe County also. As you know, in many of our county schools, just Irwin, for instance, or T.C. Robertson, we have city kids that are going to school there. and we do have some issues with those kids and some of that gang influence coming into school. I can tell you that probably one of the most effective tools that we have out there to fight this problem is a little bit of prevention. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need to have good, accountable enforcement. We do. But if we can start with these kids at an age before they get into that gang lifestyle, because we know the hardest thing and probably the least effective thing is trying to get them out. One of the things that we're doing is our on-track program that we run in the summer. We run that with at-risk youth. We use our school resource officers to come out and do a summer program with these kids. It's a 2-week program. We ran it last year. We graduated 19 kids. The school resource officers go out and raise money. We use what's called contributions funds for that program. It's not directly paid for by taxpayer money in any way except to pay the SROs through the summer, to pay them their salaries. We had a very great result, I felt like, with On Track last year. We had a very dramatic, if anybody was at the graduation, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And I think we had some real life-changing things with some of these kids. We're getting ready to run that program again twice this summer. We hope to run 50 kids through the program start to finish. If there was any problem or shortcoming in the program, is it really wasn't sustainable. We didn't do anything with them after we got them out of the program, and many times they went right back into a less than favorable environment. One of the things that we're getting ready to tag on to the end of it this year, and I'll be back to ask for your help with it in the early fall, is a mentoring program, to where we put people in the community who want to volunteer, who want to work with one of these kids who have come through this program, who are very receptive. They're at that point, they're at a stage where they're pretty receptive to that relationship, and they want to carry on in a positive relationship with one of these kids. And we're asking somewhere for about a 4-hour-a-week commitment. One of the things that was really frustrating to me when I'd talk about On Track, I'd have a tremendous amount of people volunteer out in the community, and we just had no mechanism in place to truly put them to work. Well, we're getting ready to do that. We got just a little bit of grant money from a gang resistance grant that benefits both us and the city and the district attorney's office, and we're going to use that matching money in our grant, which is about $30,000, to kind of vet these volunteers and get this program up and running. And I think we can get more bang for that money by putting volunteers out here with these kids that are looking for some affiliation.
What is the status of drugs as a leading cause in the breaking and entering and the other violent crime that you see?
You know, when you look at stats, and it's that research methods, cause and effect, independent variable thing, if you look at people's research, it goes anywhere from 70 to 80%. If you throw alcohol in there, the influence of alcohol, and you look at the crimes that we respond to, I would say it's higher. I would say it's closer to 90%, especially those P and P1 calls or those property crime-driven calls. I would say it's extremely high, the correlation between the two. And it continues to be one of our biggest challenges.
And consistent with that, as our population here grows and grows in age, are you seeing changes in that regard?
Nothing seems to be getting less. If you're talking about our demographics, or we're drawing in more retired folks and more, it looks like it would make sense that some of that drug trade and some of those things will go down because of the demographics. But if you're asking, do we see the difference? No.
In North Carolina, all of the roads are owned by the state except for those in a municipality. That means the interstates, the state highways, miscellaneous roads. That means that the jurisdiction on those roads is in the hands of the State Highway Patrol. And yet frequently along the interstate, for example, I will see a sheriff's car or an Asheville police car with their lights flashing, performing some kind of function. How does that happen?
Actually, if you're within the jurisdiction, in other words, the sheriff's office, you're covered anything within Buncombe County. If you're with APD, and some of the units with APD because of what they do, and I'm saying probably part of what you're seeing is interstate interdiction, where they're actually out working to identify and then develop probable reasonable suspicion to pull a vehicle over that they feel might be transporting narcotics. Some of the APD's team have the jurisdiction to go out into the county and work. If you're asking why would we work traffic, I would have to tell you as your sheriff, probably one of the biggest threats you face every day is getting in your motor vehicle and driving to your destination where you're going. Before I was elected sheriff, and I want to say it was 2005, they did a study in North Carolina. The Highway Patrol, Governor's Highway Safety Program did the study of alcohol-related crashes. Guess what was the #1 county in a 9-month time period when they measured it? Buncombe.
I had asked, I wanted to get some information on immigration, and because that seems to be from time to time a hot button issue, but it doesn't seem to be an issue here in Buncombe County nor in North Carolina per se. But yet I know you've gone for some specialized training for immigration, and can you give us a little bit of an update as to whether or not it's an issue here in Buncombe County and what's being done?
Let's see if I can do like a 5 to 3 minute or less thing on a huge quagmire of a problem. They put the North Carolina Sheriff's Association assigned me and 7 other sheriffs to an immigration panel that meets with Immigration Customs Enforcement, or commonly referred to as ICE, representatives from Senator Dole's office, who has taken on these issues and are pushing on some of the immigration issues right now. And what I can tell you, there's a program out there, it's called 287G. It allows local law enforcement, and it's designed for folks with detention centers. It's designed really for local sheriffs. There is a task force element to it, but immigration is looking for folks that have beds to put people in. And basically that program is designed to target the violent, criminal, serious offender who is here illegal or undocumented, whichever way you choose to put it. As far as immigration law, as far as if I had someone right here who, in other words, was not breaking the law in any way, shape, or form, but they were here undocumented and I knew that, I have no authority to take action on that. It is a federal civil tort. The immigration is basically responsible for taking action on those things. Now, there's some things about hiring, some state laws if you hire folks who are not here documented properly that we can enforce, that we can take action on. But now you're starting to see the problem. That's why 287 and being a partner is important, where it looks like we're going in Buncombe County because of our lack of jail space and how expensive it is to build, is we're going to the criminal alien program, which is it's referred to as CAP. And we're going to have the ability to identify those folks who are those violent criminal offenders who are also undocumented, and we're going to be able to have immigration come in and remove those as they see fit. We're not going to be a full partner because immigration, we put in for that. Immigration does not have the resources to be able to do that. Last thing I'll say, we're all kind of setting to wait till November, and I say we, immigration, because they don't know which direction the federal government is going to take. But until we get a federal, comprehensive, fair program that addresses all these issues, which is a political football, I mean, it's a hotbed right now, no local governments are really going to be able to make a big impact.